Imagine waking up every day with a lump in your throat, knowing your bills are overdue. The phone won't stop ringing with debt collectors, and the dream of giving your family a better life feels further away than ever. I know what that's like. A few years ago, I was buried under $50,000 of debt, maxed out credit cards, loans I could barely keep up with, and a paycheck that vanished before the month was over. But today I look out the window of my own home, bought with my hard work, and feel a relief I never thought possible. And here's the best part. You can get there too. Debt has a cruel way of trapping us. It steals our peace, our freedom, and even our hope. Maybe you're out there 25, 30, 35 years old wanting to build something solid for your family, but feeling like the weight of being in the red keeps pulling you back. You're not alone. Thousands of people go through this, but what they don't know, and what I learned the hard way, is that there's a way out of this hole and a path to start building wealth, even if you think you don't have enough money right now. In this video, I'm going to show you the step-by-step plan I used to turn my financial life around. It's not magic. It's not luck. It's a simple, realistic strategy anyone can follow. We'll talk about how to renegotiate your debts to pay less interest, how to cut expenses you don't even realize are sabotaging you, and how to create extra income to speed everything up. More than that, I'll prove to you that with the right tools, you can not only get out of debt but also achieve things that seem impossible today, like owning a home or having the security to leave a job you hate. So if you're tired of empty promises and want a real path forward, stick with me until the end. Because getting out of the red isn't just about money, it's about taking back control of your life. Let's get started. If you're watching this right now, you've probably felt that tightness in your chest when you open your banking app and see a negative balance. Or maybe it's that moment when you realize that even though you're working hard, the money doesn't stick around. It disappears, swallowed up by installments, interest, and bills that never seem to end. Before you rush to fix everything, we need to understand one thing. How did you end up in this hole? Because trust me, knowing the why is the first step to finding the way out. Debt doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's like a snowball that starts small. A payment plan here, a loan there, and suddenly turns into an avalanche. For me, it all began with a credit card I used for emergencies. Except those emergencies became routine. A fridge that broke down, a car repair, a power bill that spiked out of the blue. Before I knew it, the interest was eating up 20% of what I owed every month. Sound familiar? That's how the system works. Banks profit when you're stuck paying the minimum while watching the debt grow. Another silent villain is impulsive spending. I didn't notice it, but $50 on takeout, $30 on a subscription I barely used, and $100 on a weekend outing were sinking me. It wasn't bad intentions. It was a lack of control. And the worst part? I thought I needed those things to unwind from a job I didn't even like. Ironic, right? Spending to escape a problem that only deepened my financial hole. But here's the good news. Understanding this is already half the battle. When you see how debt builds, high interest, bad habits, or even that I'll deal with it later mindset, you start to spot what needs to change. For me, the wake-up call came when I calculated how much I'd already paid in interest alone. $12,000 in 2 years. Money that could have gone to my family to a better future, but instead lined the pockets of someone who'd never even met me. So, before we move on to the next steps, take a moment and think, what got you here? Is it the interest? The spending you don't even notice? Or the lack of a clear plan? Don't beat yourself up. I've been there too. The key is that now that you see the problem, you're ready to turn things around. And that's exactly what we're going to do together in the next step. Turn that burden into something you can manage. Let's go. Now that you understand how debt piled up and why it feels so hard to beat, it's time to take the first step to reclaim control. And that step isn't about saving more or working double shifts. At least not yet. The real secret starts with something most people are scared to do, but that changed everything for me. Renegotiating what you owe. Yes, facing your creditors head-on might sound intimidating, but trust me, they want to get paid and you want out of the red. You can make this game work in your favor. When I was drowning in $50,000 of debt, the credit card interest was the heaviest load. I paid the minimum every month, but the debt just kept growing. 20% interest a month was eating me alive. So I took a deep breath, called the bank and said, I want to settle this. What can you do for me? To my surprise, they offered a deal. If I paid $30,000 up front or in smaller installments, they'd wipe out the rest. I didn't have $30,000 on hand, but I negotiated a 12-month plan with 5% interest. Within a year, I'd slashed more than half of what I owed. That was the kickstart I needed. The trick here is simple. Banks and lenders would rather get something than nothing. If you show you're serious about paying, they might lower the interest, stretch out the terms, or even forgive part of the debt. Grab your bills, add it all up, credit cards, loans, financing, and call each creditor. Say something like, "I want to settle this once and for all. What's the best deal you can offer me?" Write down their offers and compare. A friend of mine got a $10,000 debt cut down to $6,000 just by asking for a cash discount. It works. Of course, not everyone has savings to jump on big discounts, and I didn't either. But negotiating still lightens the load. For me, dropping the interest from 20% to 5% gave me room to breathe and plan the next steps. Here's a golden tip. Be polite but firm. They might say no at first, but push a little, respectfully of course. You're not begging for a favor. You're proposing a solution. Renegotiating won't erase your debt overnight, but it puts you in the driver's seat. It's the start of a turnaround. And with that relief, you create space for the next stage, making the money you already have go further. Let's talk about that now, because cutting what you don't need is what'll give you the strength to speed up this journey. With your debts renegotiated and the interest lighter, you've already taken a huge step out of the hole. But here's a truth I was slow to accept. Negotiating alone isn't enough if money keeps slipping through your fingers. When I started looking closely at where my paycheck went, I realized the problem wasn't just what I owed. It was what I spent without even thinking. Cutting the unnecessary was like finding buried treasure in my own pocket. And that's what we're going to do together now. Get a notebook or your phone and write down everything you spent in the last 30 days. Everything. Coffee at the bakery, that app-ordered snack, the streaming subscription you barely use. For me, I found out $500 a month, almost 20% of my income, was going to things I didn't even care about. I had an expensive phone plan I could swap for a cheaper one, frequent outings I justified as deserved, and even a gym membership I hadn't used in months. It seemed small, but it added up. Money that could have gotten me out of debt faster. The secret here isn't about becoming a cheapskate or living without joy. It's about choosing what really matters. I ditched takeout and started cooking more at home, switched my $120 phone plan for a $50 one, and canceled subscriptions gathering digital dust. Result? I had $300 left each month, which I threw straight at my renegotiated payments. In a year, that made a massive difference. And get this, I could still grab a coffee with friends now and then, because I cut what didn't matter. Want a practical example? A friend of mine, a mom of two, noticed she was spending $200 a month on ready-made snacks for her kids. She switched to homemade lunches, spent $50, and even had extra time to hang out with them. That extra cash went into savings for her family's future. Little changes like that stack up into big results. So here's the challenge. Look at your spending honestly and ask, does this bring me joy, or is it just taking up space? Cut what doesn't make sense and redirect that money to your goals. Whether it's paying off debt or starting to save, you'll be shocked at how much you already have without needing a raise. And with that breathing room, the next step gets easier. Creating extra income to speed things up. Because if saving gives you control, earning more gives you power. Let's dive into that now, because the path is just getting started. Now that you've renegotiated your debts and trimmed the fat, you're probably feeling some relief. Money isn't vanishing as fast, and you finally have a bit of control. But if you want to turn that breathing room into a sprint toward financial freedom, saving alone won't cut it. That's when I realized, creating extra income is what really flips the game. It's not about working yourself to death. It's about using what you already know to earn more and fast-track your goals, like I did to buy my own home. At first, I thought I didn't have the time or skills for it. But check this out. Extra income doesn't have to mean a second 8-hour job. When I was climbing out of debt, I started selling stuff I didn't need anymore. An old video game console, clothes that didn't fit, and made $800 in a month. Then I noticed I was handy around the house and offered small services in my neighborhood. Changed outlets, assembled furniture, and earned $1,000 extra in 2 months. That cash went straight to my payments, and what used to take years to clear became a matter of months. You don't need to be an expert at something huge. People turn hobbies into cash all the time. A friend of mine started baking simple cakes to sell at work and now pulls in $10,000 a month. She even quit her 9-to-5. Another guy I know used his phone to edit videos for small businesses on Fiverr and made $2,000 extra while watching TV at night. The trick is to look at your skills and ask, what can I do that someone would pay for? It could be cooking, writing, organizing, teaching. Everyone's got something. If you're not sure where to start, try platforms like eBay to sell used stuff, or freelancing sites like Upwork and Fiverr to offer services. I started with a $100 online sales course and soon tripled that in profit. The key is to take that first step, even if it's small. Test, tweak, and grow. That extra income is the boost you need. For me, it helped me pay off debts faster and still left enough to invest in a plot of land, the start of my home. You can use it to clear what you owe, save for the future, or even dream bigger. And that's what we'll cover in the conclusion. How all this takes you from zero to wealth. Because with these steps, you're not just surviving, you're building something greater. Let's wrap this journey up together. We've reached the end of this journey, and I hope you're feeling what I felt when I put all these pieces together. A mix of relief, hope, and most of all, a drive to take action. Creating extra income, like we just talked about, is the push that turns control into power. But what I want you to take away isn't just a to-do list. It's the certainty that getting out of debt and building something solid, like a home of your own or financial freedom, isn't a far-off dream. It's a path you can walk, step by step, starting today. Let's recap real quick. First, you figured out how debt traps you. High interest and unchecked spending that seem harmless but drag you down. Then you saw that renegotiating is the starting line. With a phone call and some guts, you can lighten what you owe. Next, by cutting the unnecessary, you found out you've got more money than you thought. Just redirect it to what matters. And finally, creating extra income gives you the fuel to speed it all up, whether that's paying off debt faster or investing in your future. For me, these steps took me from $50,000 in the red to a home I call my own. It didn't happen overnight. It took 5 years of effort, tweaks, and learning. But every payment cleared, every $300 saved, every $1,000 extra I earned brought me closer to something worth it. The security of looking at my kids and saying, we did it, and you can too. Maybe your goal isn't a house. Maybe it's quitting your 9-to-5, traveling with your family, or just sleeping without worry. The destination's yours. I've given you the map here. So what do you do with all this? Grab a piece of paper and write it down. How much you owe, what you can renegotiate tomorrow, 3 expenses to cut this week, and 1 extra income idea to try next month. It doesn't have to be perfect. I started messy, selling a dusty video game console and haggling with a rep who didn't seem to care. But I started, and that's what I'm asking you. Start. The first step's always the hardest, but it leads to the second, the third, until you look back and see how far you've come. This video isn't about magic promises, it's about a real plan, tested by someone who's been where you are. If I could climb out of a $50,000 hole and build wealth, you can get out of your red and reach where you want to be. So take a deep breath, believe in what you're capable of, and get to work. Because financial freedom isn't just about money, it's about living the life you deserve. It's time to make it happen. Are you with me?